Rebel Mr. History, brought to you in part by Dixie Gun Works in Union City, Tennessee. On this episode of History Highway, I'm headed up to Calvert City, Kentucky to see an old friend of mine, H.K. Edgerton. He's speaking this weekend at the Calvert City Civic Center to the Simon B. Buckner Institute. To some in the South, H.K. Edgerton is a hero for standing up for Southern heritage. Back in 2002, he marched from North Carolina to Texas carrying a Confederate battle flag on his shoulder. Much like the Pied Piper, like-minded people joined the march, and patriotism flourished. To others, though, HK is a threat to their political agendas and their deeply held ideologies. To them, a black man with a Confederate flag and armed with the truth is dangerous. So they spend most of their time trying to defame him, or worse yet, make him the butt end of a joke. My mission today is to give you an opportunity to meet the man. So while I sit down to have a visit with an old friend, you can judge for yourself. Who is H.K. Edgerton? One, two, three. We're gonna drive in every day, and somewhere along the way, there's a road sign with a story from the past. History is everywhere, and I'm gonna take you there. So buckle up tight, we're going there real fast. So take a ride down the history highway. We're headed right to the days of old. So take a ride down the history highway. I got the pedal to the metal and I'm letting this Chevy roll. It doesn't matter if you're a reenactor who loves the smell of black powder in the morning on the battlefield, or a collector who admires the craftsmanship of a well-made weapon of old. Dixie Gun Works has a Pedersoli just for you. And not only does Dixie Gun Works have a warehouse full of Pedersoli reproduction firearms, they have an incredible collection of antique firearms. Inside the pages of their huge catalog, you will find gun parts, shooting accessories, reenactor clothing, camping supplies, and even some big guns if you like to burn a lot of powder. Dixie Gun Works is located in Union City, Tennessee. But for your convenience, visit our online store at www.dixiegunworks.com or call 1-800-238-6785. On occasion on History Highway, we run across those who preserve our heritage and history, and a good friend of mine, H.K. Edgerton, he's here in Kentucky this weekend, and we wanted to come by and visit. We met probably 15 to 20 years ago, and up in East Tennessee, and he was the special speaker, and I sang Dixie, and probably a year later, ran across him at Chickamauga at a reenactment. And he said, Ricky boy, sing Dixie. And we've been friends, fast friends ever since, and I've admired his passion for Southern history and teaching Southern history. He travels all across the country doing such, and what kind of launched it was back several years ago, he went from state to state to make a statement. And that's kind of what I want him to talk about right now, is what inspired you to go from North Carolina to Texas talking about the flag in Southern history?
Well, that was an illegal election run on me at the NAACP when I was the president.
Okay.
And I suppose one of the reasons why was because of the fact that I was in the process, my organization, of suing the City of Asheville and Affordable Housing Coalition because of some of the improprieties that they were having, taking people's houses through condemnation and taxation procedures, especially old people.
Sure.
They would take their houses, the deeds, tell them that the property was they need to be condemned and taken down, and then they would go into a room and use the grant funds that should have gone to the people to fix the houses and then pass the deeds among themselves, sell the house, and the people be out of their houses. Or taxation, selling people's houses on the courthouse steps. And that bothered me deeply because they never told the people that they had a year in which to effectuate those repairs.
Just felt underhanded all the way around.
All the way across the board.
Right.
And I had asked the NAACP Legal Defense Fund for some help, and they told me that basically that it would cost me $15,000 for them to come to investigate.
Yeah.
And they needed
money.
first-class airline tickets and five-star hotels for their entourage, which basically consisted of approximately 5 to 7 people.
Wow.
And I said, I can't afford that. You're the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. Why can't you help us? And they said, we are a law firm, and that's just the word, the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. Well, one man I asked, who was supposed to be this white supremacist, but he was one of the top lawyers in the country, Kurt D. Lyons with the Southern Legal Resource Center, who agreed to meet with me and talk about this. Well, after I showed Kurt what was going on, basically what he said is that if you can get your organization to hire me pro bono, I'll bring the city of Asheville down to its knees.
Wow.
And yeah.
That's bold.
It was bold. He meant it too. Even the city attorney said to me, HK, please don't let me have to deal with Kurt Lyons. But I want to make it very short because I could go a long way off with this, and I don't want to take it on a tangent. But anyway, after they ran a illegal election on me, Kurt Lyons said to me, the attorney Kurt Lyons, why don't you, if the NAACP don't want you, why don't you come and join my board of directors? And I decided that I'll join your board, your advisory board. And then I asked him, I said, well, how will you decide which one of these cases to take? And he said, HK, they all merit taking. But people think that because we are a civil rights nonprofit organization that we can afford to just take everything. But we can't, because you have to go to all across the country doing briefs and talking to these folks. So we just close our eyes and pick out something. And one night I just decided, first of all, I didn't want to just be sitting around doing nothing but being a figurehead. I wasn't going to be the spook who sat by the door. That means, what is it that I can do? So one night, I'm laying in my bed, and you know, I tell people how my flag talks to me, and they kind of look at me like I'm strange, but it does. And I went to him and I said, you know, Kurt, I'd like to walk to Texas and get people to donate along the way to raise funds for our Southern heritage, to help some of these folks who can't afford attorneys and all.
Now, your mother, she also had a love for the flag, from what I gather. Is this correct?
That is absolutely 100% true. My mom is the only black woman to ever receive a Confederate State Funeral. And coming up as a kid in our community, we'd have our tricycles, and some folks would have bicycles. Yes, and she would cut cardboard and take a clothespin and put the cardboard. That's right, make that noise.
Yeah, I did that.
And she would also pin battle flags on the bicycle, either on the little trays or the handlebars.
Yep.
I have no idea where my mom got all those flags from, but she had them. And all the kids were, Miss Edgerton, can I get a battle flag? And during that time, there was a film called The Rebel. Johnny Umar was the rebel, and everybody wanted to be the
Very
rebel.
familiar. I aired that on my network.
Come on.
I do. I aired
Come
that on
on.
AME TV. I do.
Well, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, sir.
So,
And she was very proud of the fact that I had made a decision to walk across the South, 7 states, and 67 cities in the historic March Across Dixie, where I would march in 20 miles a day, 6 days a week, carrying the flag, donning the uniform of a Confederate soldier. A couple of times I did 45 miles, and once I did 60, because people came late.
Right.
But they still wanted, and they came from all places, and they wanted to march with me. So my little brother would have nothing to the fact that hearing that I'm tired, that's out the question.
Got to keep going.
That's exactly right. So I made that journey on October 14th, 2002, and it was one of the most glorious journeys of my life. Black folks came out from all over the place, and I'm especially mentioning black folks because black folks have been used as a weapon of choice against our Southern white family. Mm-hmm. And they always say slavery, and that's supposed to end all dialogue about it. But the amazing thing for me is that I ran into black folks who came out, they brought me money, they brought me food, they brought me stories about their families. Just so surprising to know.
And your heart grew for the passion in your heart grew.
Absolutely.
On this trip, didn't it?
Ooh, yes indeed.
Wanted to explode.
Oh.
Each story built you. That was your foundation. It wasn't brother. That built your foundation you're walking on now.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes.
It's a great journey. I've made several marches, mm-hmm. but that was the biggest, that was the hugest. When the Honey the Confederate submarine was brought out of Charleston
Yes,
Harbor,
mm-hmm. Yes.
I walked to Charleston, same kind of results. When Obama first took office, I told my little brother, well, we going into the White House. Yes, we did. I even saw Obama peeping out the window, and I said, come on down here. He never came down, and so, being on the highway and walking into Washington with my flag, and even gave a speech at the White House gates to all the folks that was standing around. So I've been on a lot of journeys.
From the pens of the Kennedy twins comes a new literary composition. The renowned authors of The South Was Right and a dozen more publications have become known for their zeal for conservatism and Southern heritage preservation. In their new book, Jefferson Davis, High Road to Emancipation and Constitutional Government, Donnie and Ron Kennedy hold nothing back. They're quick to point out Davis's high road approach to emancipation, while Lincoln chose the low road. Never afraid of controversy and to go against the grain of the politically correct, the Kennedy twins expose how our constitutional republic of sovereign states has been transformed into a deep state of federal government. To get your copy of the book that defends President Davis and the South, go to www.kennedytwins.com. That's www.kennedytwins.com.
Looking for a place to go? The Alabama Music Hall of Fame should be the next place on your bucket list. From the Swampers to Nat King Cole. From country music to the blues. There are music legends everywhere. The Alabama Music Hall of Fame is at 617 Highway 72 West, Tuscumbia, Alabama. The Alabama Music Hall of Fame, where the legends live.
I, the Southern Cross, I am history.
I am heritage, not hate. I am, oh my God, I am the inspiration of valor from the past. Look away, Dixieland. Look away, Dixieland. I, the Southern Cross, I am their flag. God bless you, and God bless Dixie. Today, a man would mention John Harris from Mississippi. Knew the story well because I am the recipient of the John F. Harris Mississippi Division of Sons of Confederate Veterans Award. So I knew what they were talking about. So many things that these people do to try to divide and separate black folks and white folks in the Southland of America. And I was so very proud of Donnie Kennedy talking about every member of the United States Supreme Court, with the exception of one Southern plantation owner, who voted that we didn't need Jim Crow. We've been together in the Southland of America forever. We're family.
Right.
And you know, I meant to mention today. I did talk about a little bit about the Pole Bearers Association, who invited General Nathan Bedford Forrest as their keynote speaker. But there were other organizations like the Knights Monumental Association that came out of Charleston. And they said, we're going to do just like the Pole Bearers did. We're going to do everything we can do to regain and retain the relations and relationships with our Southern white family. And never again shall we ever let somebody not of the Southern soil deter or erase those relations. Well, evidently, some of the new civil rights folks, or so-called civil rights, the poverty pimps, didn't get the message. Yeah, they didn't get the message.
The message, that's right.
And it's very, you know, dividing and separating people, especially white folks and black folks in the South, is a very profitable game.
And also, it's right from the textbook of communism.
Absolutely.
They were using the black race to pit against the white race. That goes back to the 50s when they were trying to drive that wedge, and it's been happening ever since, brother.
It is.
Me and this gentleman right here, HK, we had probably 15 to 20 years ago, we was having this conversation talking about trying to divide us. And at that time, they weren't attacking the flag as much, but we were talking about if they're going to attack this flag, they'll eventually come after the Stars and Stripes.
Going to do it.
And if they start tearing down our Confederate statues, they're eventually going to come after George Washington and Jefferson.
Already done.
And some people sitting and hearing that conversation laughed and snickered at us, saying that would never happen.
And it has.
And here we are. This man right here, he's trying to do everything he can to prevent it from happening.
It's history.
It's history.
You know, they have this woke and all this other crap. And when you start looking at the people, the leaders of our nation, George Washington owned slaves. When you start talking about Christopher Columbus went into, when he finally came into the New World, he went and met this indigenous people who he really needed their help, you know, because he had been lost at sea for a while. And they gave him shelter, food, and in the dark of the night, after they had done all these good things for him, he stole some of their people and took them back to Ferdinand and Isabel to be slaves. So slavery, you know, is not really an issue that you just take and just throw it all off on the Christian white folks in the Southland of America. The bottom line for me is this: when you study history and look at it, the only man to ever care about the African people is the Southern white man, the Christian, Judeo-Christian Southern white man, has been the only man who really showed them love and caring. Now people they can take, oh, you just Uncle Tom, and you can uncle me all you want to. Matter of fact, I have affinity for Uncle Tom. Yes,
I don't know.
but the facts are the facts.
Yes.
The economic institution of slavery is not just black folks, Africans. I mean, the Vikings, the Russia, France, Saudi Arabia, Great Britain, Spain, especially Spain, all involved in the economic institution of slavery. But just like John Brown learned when he came here, he wanted to try to entice the black folks to kill white folks in their sleep, like those boys the French did in Haiti. But he found out that the love that these folks, these Africans had for the Judeo-Christian white man was something that they didn't expect that would happen. And even though he threatened to kill these little black babies of the slaves, they refused to participate, like the blacks were forced to do in Haiti, in killing their southern white family, because they were their family. Mm-hmm. That's just the bottom line. So my journey, it has been to educate these folks, because they talk about Black History Month. I made a historic journey, several historic journeys, but when you go into the newly acknowledged, supposedly, Black history museums, like the one in Alabama and a couple other places, they don't talk about the journey that I made, the historic journey that I made, along with my southern family, in the march across the Southland of America, the march across Dixie. We don't even want to include that in history. We don't even want to include Reverend Mac Lee, body servant to General Robert E. Lee, who told his family.
Collier. Don't want to talk about Hope Collier.
No. But Reverend Mac Lee said to them, get yourself some land. Get yourself an education. Keep your faith in our Lord and Master Jesus Christ, and above all else, put your trust only in the Southern white man. He was there. He knew. So, but they don't, when you ask these folks about any of those Black Confederate soldiers or their families, there's a strange look come over their faces, because these folks, especially from the North, who came here and built the public school system and brought their school teachers here from the North and did everything they could do to divide and separate black folks and white folks, told the little white babies that their families were nothing but rebels and traitors. They were not. They were following the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence as set down in our Constitution. They had every right to succeed, legally succeed, and they did. They had that much courage to do so. But they made them think that our babies were, that their families were like that, and that our religions were no good, because if it had been, they would have set the black folks free. What a lie that was. I would encourage people to read the letter that the Honorable Reverend R.L. Dabney, General Thomas Stonewall's chaplain-in-chief.
Yes.
He sent a letter to the Freedmen's Bureau, June 12, 1865, talking about these very issues that we're talking about now. It is one of the most profound documents that I ever read. He spelled out to these folks what they were getting, what they were doing to black folks. You're already picking them up, even if they just stand on the street for a minute, separate them from their family never see them, employ them with the company store. You pay them a penny a day and charge them 50 cents a day to live. Slavery all over at its highest level. But our babies will never learn that kind of history, because they're not in charge.
Brother, from one historian to the other, I love you. God bless you.
Ditto.
You're a brother in Christ.
Ditto that.
Keep up the work.
I shall, sir. God bless you.
We'll be back on History Highway.
There is a place, nestled in the rolling farmland of southern Middle Tennessee. A home constructed in 1837, nearly lost to the ravages of war. Saved by a servant and a Confederate general. A place where families loved and lost. If walls could talk, what stories could be told? If a place A home can feel love, loss, pain. Surely this is one of those places. Nearby is a more recent structure, and inside are the stories of heroes and heroines, stories of battles won and lost, stories of sacrifices made by the people of its native soil. A place that will tell the true and complete story of the Southland and the war fought for its freedom. From the causes that led to the conflict to the modern-day struggles to protect Southern history. Historic Elm Springs and the Confederate Museum at Elm Springs are the general headquarters for the Sons of Confederate Veterans. A place where the story of the Southland and its historic struggle is preserved and told. Come and discover your history.
Without a doubt, HK has been an inspiration, which encourages other people of color to make a stand for Southern heritage. One such person is Karen Cooper from Virginia, who spends a great deal of her time speaking about the Confederate flag. Down in Oxford, Mississippi, Anthony Hervey not only wrapped himself in a battle flag, but he wrote a book explaining why he waved the Confederate colors. Sadly enough, though, we lost Anthony in a mysterious car crash on July 20th, 2015. Gregory Newsom from Conway, South Carolina, not only writes books about Black Confederates, he does artwork as well. Inspired by the life of Stonewall Jackson, Gregory has made quite the mark on heritage preservation. Down in Tampa, Florida, Al McRae is a very successful businessman and the editor of the Tampa News. He's also a member of the Judah P. Benjamin Camp of the Sons of Confederate Veterans. Another Black SCV member is Nelson Winbush, who was an educator in Ripley, Tennessee for many years. His grandfather, Louis Napoleon Nelson, was a cook, a rifleman, and a preacher in the cavalry of Nathan Bedford Forrest. He was in the 7th Tennessee Cav, which places him in the same regiment with two of my ancestors. As strange as it may seem to some, Black Confederates were real, and their stories, they need to be told.
My crew keeps me on the road from episode to episode, 'cause they all know I got a million stories to tell. And I'm no dinosaur, it's cool to explore what makes a country great and put the crack in the Liberty Bell. So take a ride down the history highway. We're headed back to the days of old. So take a ride down the history highway. I got the pedal to the metal and I'm letting this Chevy roll. I got the pedal to the metal and I'm letting